Okay, let's say, hypothetically, you've got a 2001-ish Super Duty, okay? And let's also say, hypothetically, that your battery light just keeps coming on, just randomly. And let's also say, on top of that, hypothetically, now that we've established that you, in fact, have a 2001-ish Super Duty, and that we've also established your battery light comes on randomly, let us also then further assume that, oddly enough, it's still charging, and that you've gone out and you've looked at your battery connections, and everything's good here, and everything's plugged in, and everything's hooked up, and you still start up fine in the morning, and all your electrical works. Okay, so here's the thing. Now that we've established all this, but your battery light's still coming on randomly for no explicable reason, then that leaves the only cause of the problem to be this wire that goes right here. And we'll talk about the piece of wood in a second, okay? But yes, it would be this wire right here, if, hypothetically, everything that we have just established is true. So, the solution for that is, as you may have already guessed, taking a wood shim and cutting it down, and then just, shoving it in there. Oh, was that backwards? That may have been backwards. It only goes in there a certain way. It's keyed. Oh, crap. I don't remember which way. I'll put it in later when we're done with the video. The easiest way to check that wire is to get a screwdriver while the truck is running and then just wiggle it around. I would advise sticking your hand in there just because it's kind of hot. And if there's a short somewhere, you'll shock yourself, and that doesn't feel good. Ask me how I know. But yeah, you can do that, and you can wiggle that around and see if that light goes off. And if the light goes off, well, then that's your problem. So, oh, there's Power Stroke Panther. Are you going to stand? Yep, there he is. Anyway, that connector right there, that single wire, is, I believe, there's a Motorcraft pigtail number, and I will put that down below. And if I remember, I'll put a link to the Motorcraft wiring pigtail brochure, let's call it. And it's basically got all the pictures and numbers of all the service connector kits that Ford sells. And the Motorcraft pigtails are very nice. They use nice wire. The butt connectors are of a good quality. The shrink tubing is of a good quality. They're really nice connectors. And it's worth the money, quite honestly. That's one of the things I haven't really complained about with Ford much, is their wiring's pretty nice. I've never been impressed with the wiring from certain other companies, but the Ford wiring's usually pretty nice, but it's not indestructible. It will wear out over time. And I've had issues with this before. I know it just it's just loose, I need to replace it. But because I'm too cheap to do that, and it doesn't really need to be replaced if you think about it, the solution is, like I said, to cut a wood shim down or something like this and stick it in there. Now, a lot of you might say, well, that's going to light something on fire. And it's not going to light anything on fire. I mean, sure, that's probably a risk. I wouldn't cut down a piece of wood that's soaked in gas or oil or something and stick it in there. And I certainly wouldn't spray this whole thing with water. But it's not going to catch on fire. I drove this thing 200 miles the other day. This has no signs of any damage, scorching, burning, smoldering, anything like that. It's pretty hillbilly, I will admit, but if I thought it was dangerous, like legitimately thought it was dangerous, I wouldn't do it. And I sure as hell wouldn't make a video telling you to do it. That being said, if you choose to do this, it's your problem. You do it at your own risk. Just understand that there is a potential fire hazard, but I'm going to ask you an honest question here. Again, I'm not saying you should do this. I'm just saying you can, and that if you do, it's your problem. But food for thought here. Everybody's engine is covered with like oil and stuff right here. Let me ask you, why is this not a fire hazard, but me putting a piece of wood in the alternator is? I'm just asking, which do you think combusts better? Oil or wood? Don't answer that, because wood combusts better, actually. That wasn't a good analogy. Point is, if your engine's covered in oil and it hasn't caught fire, then a piece of wood in the alternator is probably not going to hurt it. But you do still run a risk, among other things. So don't blame me if you burn your truck down. That's not my fault. I'm just telling you what you can do to get by. Your side of the road fix is my farmer fix. And on a farm, any temporary fix that works, it's a permanent fix. And that's how we do things around here. So I'll get around to eventually maybe fixing that correctly. But until then, we'll just leave Old Faithful in there and it will be just fine. That might not be the right way. That's not the right way. I'm going to get this clocked in here right. Did I have to tap it in? Do I have to go get my tiny hammer? I may have to go get my tiny hammer. Nope, there we go. All right, yeah. I broke something. No, I didn't. Anyway, I'll screw with it later. So, anyway, yeah, that should get your alternator light to go away, your battery light, and then, you know, you can just focus on the other lights that are worth ignoring. The battery light's not one I like to ignore. Airbag light, ABS light, tire pressure light, check engine light. Of course, some of these are not on this vehicle. If the check engine light comes on this, then there's usually something pretty wrong. It's got to be pretty bad for the check engine light to come on this. Everything else, we just ignore the check engine light. It's not important. So yeah, all that being said, that should help you guys out with that. I will get off of here and get back to putting my wood shim back in there. I had it in there really nice before I started the video. Now I'm irritated. I took it out. So yeah. All right, you guys have fun with stuff, and we'll see you in the next one.